Okay, so it was Taco Tuesday's birthday yesterday, and the White House it turned into a clown show. I mean, it already was, but the next level up. If I was a U.S. citizen, I'd be embarrassed. But unfortunately, there's some U.S. citizens that say this was the best event ever made. It's just too bad Taco Tuesday couldn't stay awake for some of it. But the saddest part of this whole thing is this next clip right here. Yep, this is peak America right here. I'm surprised they didn't bring out a monster truck or like a NASCAR to do some burnouts on the lawn. But while the United States was playing their clown games, leaders around the world were acting like adults, and Prime Minister Mark Carney is in France, continuing to build relationships with Europe. In today's video, I'm going to talk about this article. It's titled, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says New World Order will be built starting with Europe. But before I start, I just want to remind everybody about the petition to have Pete Hoekstra reviewed or even kicked out of our country. This petition closes on June 25th, so we have 10 days left, and is currently sitting at 26,242 signatures. I'm trying to see if we can get 30,000 by the time it ends, but if you haven't seen this petition yet or want to read it over, the link to the petition will be in the description below. Okay, let's get started on this article titled Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says New World Order will be built starting with Europe. As always, I'll read it out for those that are just listening or also for the visually impaired. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney continued his efforts to pivot away from the United States and align with Europe, meeting with leaders from Ireland on Saturday ahead of the upcoming G7 summit, and saying middle power countries shouldn't compete for favor with America. Now, this is very important. I don't think any country in the world should be trusting the United States. They have proven to be unreliable. They'll stab you in the back, and they'll try to strong arm you into a deal that only benefits them. It's time to stop sucking up to the United States, and it's time for the middle powers to leave the United States on their own. Carney said that Canada and the European Union have a combined population that is more than twice of that of the United States, with similarly sized economy, and a collective defense budget that is twice of that of China. He says smaller nations can multiply their strength by partnering with like-minded allies. In a world of great power rivalry, middle powers have a choice, to compete for favor or combine to create a third path with impact, Carney said at Trinity College in Dublin. He made similar comments at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, which became a symbol of middle power resistance in January, when he declared the global rules-based order over and condemned coercion by the great powers on smaller countries. Now let me stop it here for a minute. The world has never been in this situation, at least not in my lifetime. And it's been a habit on the government and citizen level to think that the United States is unstoppable. Just because they're bigger, they're louder, and they had the soft power. Which is why I do hope moving forward, Canada and Europe does build the ties. Now I know some people have said that Canada should join the European Union, though I'm on the fence on that one. But Professor Wayne Smith and I did talk about this briefly in our live stream yesterday, and I do want to show a small clip on Wayne's opinion on this. Here's a question I might need your help with, Wayne. This one's from Christian Kraus, 3964. Do you think Canada would join Schengen if possible? That would make travel between the EU and Canada so much easier.
Okay, just to explain this a little bit, it's a coalition of 29-ish countries where basically they've eliminated the passport. You need the passport to cross from one way to another. Yeah, there's really some really interesting things to do with whether or not Canada should become part of the EU. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm going to tell you two things. I'll go with this. One, that's probably never going to happen. It has nothing to do with Canada. It happens to do with if we were to allow that, abolish the passports, what ends up happening is that the US will close its border to us. They'll call it a security concern. They'll call it, and we just can't do that. So it's not even going to be Canadian policy. That'll be US policy. That will never allow that to happen. Mm-hmm. This is why I don't think Canada will ever be a full EU member or pick whatever alliance where you can have free, like I can work in any country in the alliance without a visa and stuff. Mm-hmm. Trust me, I would love like AUKUS to work. I would love to be part of the EU, be able to go, if I could go work in, in France, it'd be really cool. It'd be a neat opportunity, especially for my kids, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think that'll ever happen because of U.S. would express security interests in that because they're already complaining about, for example, the immigration there, mm-hmm. right? and then they would say, well, what happens when the immigrants come to Canada and they can just cross the border anywhere? You would create a border nightmare as a result of that.
Now, if I think of it this way, I mean, if the United States didn't exist, I would say, yeah, let's join the EU. But unfortunately, the dysfunctional neighbor exists. And you can bet the United States will put a shit ton of security policies on Canada. Now, for us watching this channel, it's not going to matter because we don't go to the United States anymore. But my guess is that we would have to fill out an ESTA form, Nexus would probably be abolished, and it'll just be tougher for us to go to the US, which probably is a good thing. But that's just on the citizen level. On a government level, I'm sure they would put a whole bunch of new policies and restrictions on Canada as well. Now, if you missed the live stream and you want to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description below. We talk about everything from cross-border tourism, taxes, World Cup, and even the summer predictions. Oh yeah, that hat that Wayne's wearing is about 30 years old. Can't get much more Canadian than wearing a 30-year-old Montreal Expos hat. US President Taco Tuesday. Boo! Leaves for the G7 summit right after he hosts the UFC fights at the White House on Sunday for his 80th birthday. Tangerine Tyrant is currently not scheduled to hold bilateral talks with Carney during the summit, according to a senior US administration official. And I don't think he should either. Nothing productive is going to come out of it. Carney described Canada and Europe as a force for good because we safeguard values of human rights, dignity, and pluralism that our people hold dear. The Prime Minister said together, the EU and Canada is one of the largest economic, cultural, technological, and financial and military blocs in the world. Now, looking at this map here, which I just realized the European Union might not be updated, but you guys get the picture. But to me, it makes sense to partner up with the European Union on both trade and security as well. And we know for a fact that the United States is not going to like it, which is actually part of the reason why I want us to do it. But despite me being spiteful, we have to think about our future as well. Because if a new Democratic president comes along, he's not going to fix the problem. Things are not going to magically go back to the way things were before. But the plan B's, C, D's, E's that we're making right now, in my opinion, those got to be the permanent plans. And anything that the United States wants from us in the future will be secondary to what we arrange with Europe. What I'm trying to say is that the United States should not be the priority of Europe as well as Canada anymore. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me on this. The New World Order will be built starting with Europe, Carney said at an earlier joint news conference with Martin. Canada is the most European of non-European countries. We are transforming our cooperation with Europe. In February, Canada became the first non-European member of the SAFE mechanism, the European Union Defence Procurement Initiative. Carney, on this 9th trip to Europe since becoming Prime Minister 15 months ago, noted Canada's 56 partnerships in the critical minerals sector across more than 10 countries, primarily in Europe. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't know Prime Minister Mark Carney went over to Europe that much. But every time he goes over, there would be a goal. Now, some of the partnerships and deals, they may not be as big as other ones. But with each one confirmed, I do hope it starts to release our reliance on the United States. Moving on, trade tensions continue to simmer between Canada and the US. There is a scheduled July 1st review of the US-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, or CUSMA, the latest iteration of the North America Free Trade Pact that has been intertwined with the economies of the three countries since the early 1990s. Taco Tuesday said this week that he may not renew the deal. Carney said that Canadian Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc will meet with the U.S. Trade Representatives Jameson Greer at the summit. The Prime Minister said he doesn't believe the U.S. is interested in big change to free trade agreement with Canada and Mexico. Now, my thoughts on this, I mean, if nothing happens, it just goes on for, I think, another 16 months? No, not 16 months, 16 years from 2020. But I think Canada and Mexico has to be prepared in case Taco Tuesday decides to withdraw from it completely. But even if it is renewed by Taco Tuesday, I don't trust the United States would honor anything in it. Once that trust is broken, it's very hard for anyone north of the border to believe anything they say. Moving on, the US has been clear. They don't want to change the fundamental architecture, Carney said. Carney emphasized that Taco Tuesday administration has allowed about 85% of Canadian trade to the US to be tariff-free because it's covered under USMCA. Carney said that to fundamentally change the agreement, the White House would have to go through Congress, adding the White House doesn't want to do that. Has that stopped them in the past? And quite frankly, Congress is kind of useless anyways. The U.S. official, who briefed reporters on the condition of anonymity on the ground rules set by the White House, said the U.S. had outreach from Canada to set up further discussions on the trade with the U.S. administration. The Taco Tuesday administration views a recent move by the Canadian government to roll back a regulatory decision that required foreign streaming platforms to allocate a portion of their Canadian revenues to fund local news and programming as a positive decision, the officials added. Yeah, positive for them, but what about Canada? Just saying. But the officials added, no major breakthroughs with Canada are expected during the summit, and I don't think there's going to be any either. Taco Tuesday said again this week that the US doesn't need anything that Canada has. Carney has set a goal for Canada to double its non-US exports in the next decade, saying Taco Tuesday's trade war is causing a chill in investment. Prime Minister Mark Carney has also spoken with great clarity and conviction about Canada's desire to deepen its engagement with Europe. Ireland warmly and unreservedly welcomed that ambition, and we will do what it can to strengthen relationships between the European Union and Canada during this forthcoming presidency, Martin said. Ireland will be holding the rotating presidency of the Council of the European Union starting in July. Now, going back to Taco Tuesdays, we don't need anything from Canada. I've actually been thinking about this a lot. I mean, not right now in present time, but like, say, 4 or 5 years down the road. And it's because I see a lot of comments, not just in my videos, but in social media in general, from US citizens basically saying, you know what, just hold the line for now, wait till he's gone and everything go back to normal. And basically saying, once we have a sane president, it'll be like this period never happened. Now, I know the US citizens that support my channel, they know that there's everlasting damage that has happened. But there's still a vast majority of US citizens that still believe it's one person. I mean, the 77 million that voted for him aren't going anywhere. The US administration aren't going anywhere. And those elected to Congress are still going to be there as well. But thinking everything's going to magically change after one guy is gone, I don't understand this rationale. I mean, it's simply putting the blame on one person and not the people that got him there. But when it comes to global trade and partnerships, eventually a Democratic president will be back. But this future Democratic president and his administration, they're in for an uphill battle because the world knows what the United States is capable of now. And when I say capable, it means backstabbing their allies in the back. To close off this video, I would like to thank Donna for posting this photo on the Guard the Leaf Hay Cafe page. And she took this photo from Sunset Park, North Bay, Ontario. I believe there are some people from North Bay in the live stream in the chat. I recall seeing people saying they're from North Bay. But I want to thank you, Donna, for sharing this with the community and posting it on the Guard the Leaf page. Also, before I go, if you did miss that live stream and you want to check it out, the link will be in the description below. Alright everyone, that's all I got for this. Hey, stop licking my foot. That's all I got for this video. If you found any value in anything I said today, or you want to hear more from a Canadian and international point of view, without the US media bias, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. That way you'll be notified of my future videos. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon and select all as well. Now, if you want to see more of my videos, check out the ones that are going to show up on your screen shortly. Thanks everyone, I'll catch you in the next one.